Ma'am, this looks like it came from a yard sale. The young MP sergeant laughed, holding up a tarnished dog tag chain. The metal was so worn you could barely make out the stamped letters. Everyone at the Fort Knox security checkpoint was staring at the small woman who'd just handed it over. Jessica Harper stood quietly, hands behind her back. At 35, she looked ordinary. Navy sweater, jeans, brown hair, and a simple ponytail. Nothing about her screamed military. But what happened when they scanned that worn piece of metal would change everything. "You serious with this thing?" Another guard chuckled, passing the dog tag round like a joke. "Looks like my grandpa's from Vietnam." The metal tag was ancient-looking. Years of wear had made the information nearly impossible to read. Faint impressions where numbers and letters once stood clear. "I need access to Vault 7, she said simply. Her voice was calm and steady. The guards exchanged glances. Vault 7? That was classified storage. Most of them weren't even supposed to know it existed. "Ma'am," the desk sergeant said, trying to stay polite, "even generals need Pentagon authorization for that level, and this card," he gestured at the worn tag, "this is barely readable." One guard rolled his eyes. "I'll scan it for laughs, I guess. Let's put this mystery to rest." The worn tag slipped into the biometric scanner. Everyone expected an error message. Invalid ID, format not recognized, something normal. Instead, the screen flashed red, then gold, and a color none of them had ever seen. Clearance level, Atlas. Priority, absolute authority. Status, active. The room went dead silent. Atlas clearance wasn't in their training manuals. It was beyond top secret, beyond presidential. It was legendary. "That's impossible," the sergeant whispered. Jessica waited patiently while their world turned upside down. Alarms were quietly sounding throughout the base. Within minutes, Colonel Marcus Rodriguez burst through the checkpoint doors, tablet in hand, face pale as winter. He stopped dead when he saw her. "Jessica." She nodded once. "Hello, Marcus." "You're supposed to be—" His voice dropped to a whisper. "Dead. The official report said Syria, KIA. I requested that classification. It was necessary." Rodriguez stared. She hadn't changed much. Same steel in her eyes, same composed bearing. But something about her seemed heavier now, like she carried entire wars in her silence. "Operation Silent Thunder," he breathed. "You led the extraction when Bravo Company was surrounded. 47 soldiers made it home because of you." One of the younger MPs stepped forward, recognition dawning like sunrise. "You're the Ghost Commander, the one they tell stories about in advanced training." Jessica said nothing. She didn't need to. "The vault contains outdated intelligence that's still dangerous," Jessica explained as they walked deeper into Fort Knox. Her voice carried the weight of secrets. Satellite codes, safe house locations, asset identities from operations that never officially happened. "Why come back now?" Rodriguez asked. "Someone's been probing military databases, shadow intrusions, ghost access attempts. If they breach Vault 7, she didn't need to finish. "National security nightmare," Rodriguez completed. "I'm the only one left with the protocols to destroy this material properly, the old way, the permanent way." She worked alone for 8 hours, methodically dismantling systems, burning drives, ensuring decades of shadows would never see daylight. Her hands moved with precision born from carrying impossible burdens. Word spread like wildfire. By evening, General Patricia Williams arrived by helicopter, the base commander herself. "Ma'am," she stood at perfect attention. "Afghanistan, 2019. You saved my convoy when our vehicles broke down in hostile territory. I was Captain Williams then." Jessica studied her carefully. "You carried the wounded private 3 miles on foot. You remembered?" "I remember everyone I've served with." Another officer stepped forward. "Commander Harper, why disappear? You were being considered for the Medal of Honor. The President wanted to meet you personally." Jessica was quiet for a long moment, the weight of truth settling in the air. "Because sometimes the mission requires you to become invisible, to let others take credit, to carry secrets that can never be shared even in victory." Her voice carried something deeper than authority. It carried the cost of heroism. Jessica declined ceremonies, declined having her status reactivated, declined recognition. Before leaving, she placed the worn dog tag on Rodriguez's desk. "Someday, another forgotten soldier will need this clearance. Someone who served in shadows. Keep it safe." Rodriguez picked up the tag, feeling its weight, not the metal, but the history. "Ma'am, the nation owes you—" "The nation owes me nothing," Jessica interrupted gently. "I did what needed to be done. That's enough." 2 weeks later, Fort Knox installed a memorial case at the main entrance. Inside sat a replica of a tarnished dog tag. The plaque read, "In honor of those who serve in silence, whose names are classified, whose sacrifices are known only to God and country." But Jessica herself returned to Portland, Oregon. A small apartment, a quiet job at the VA, counseling veterans who struggled with invisible wounds. She never mentioned her past, but sometimes, when a young veteran would break down, unable to cope with memories, Jessica would sit with them and say, "Someone I knew once told me that the heaviest medals are the ones you can't wear, but they're also the most important." They always understood. 6 months later, a young soldier from Fort Knox came to her clinic, one of the MPs who had laughed at her dog tag. He didn't recognize her at first. Scrubs, stethoscope, gentle demeanor. But when she handed him his paperwork, something in her calm, steady hands seemed familiar. "Have we met before?" he asked quietly. "I meet a lot of veterans. How can I help you today?" He never said anything more, but when he left, he carried with him a deeper understanding of respect. Real heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear scrubs. Sometimes they carry coffee. Sometimes they sit quietly in the corner, hoping they never have to show why they earned that silence. The next time you see someone ordinary, remember Jessica Harper. Remember that authority doesn't always announce itself, and respect isn't about the uniform, it's about the person wearing it.